What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. So this is going to be a beginning of this discography that I really have been deciding to do after seeing the amazing Black Sabbath 50 Years exhibition at the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery. And as you can see, I got a Black Sabbath t-shirt on, and I think it's time to do the reviews of their entire discography, not counting in a re-review of 13 though, because I had already reviewed it when it came out. But this is going to be a discography review on all of their albums from the beginning to the era of Forbidden. So, yeah, with that being said, let's get started. Black Sabbath's self-titled debut album. This album was released on the 13th of February 1970, and the album was recorded in November of 1969, and the record label at this time became one of the most popular record labels of all time because of Black Sabbath's population, the Vertigo Swirl label. So, with Black Sabbath's first album, a lot of people really consider this album to be one of the most important and pioneering albums that, gave birth to a new genre that has been around for almost 50 years now that would become heavy metal. And I can definitely, really see why. As much as some people would say other bands like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and Blue Cheer, and others to be involved in like the early stages of heavy metal, but Black Sabbath were the bands that really shaped things up to make this sound really, really big. And, at this point, Black Sabbath were a band that nobody had ever heard of before. So they really, formed themselves to be a band that have a unique sound that would become so influential. So the album is a very, very strong start to this discography, and this has been one of my big main favourites in Sabbath's history. And while it may not be my favourite in the discography, this is definitely, to me, one of the very, very strong, starting points to a band's discography. The Black Sabbath album cover features a depiction of Maple Durham Watermill, situated on the River Thames in Oxfordshire, England. Standing in front of the watermill is a figure dressed in black. The name of the woman pictured on the front cover is forgotten, though guitarist Iommi says that she once showed up backstage at a Black Sabbath show and introduced herself. According to feelnumb.com, which featured an article on the album cover, not much is known about the eerie woman used in the photo other than she was a model actress hired for the day and her name was Louise. The opening track, Black Sabbath, begins with the sounds of the rain and church bells and then goes straight into a very simple but dark doom metal sounding atmosphere with just 3 guitar notes that has been repeating a lot, with Ozzy's deep but fitting vocals that really portray like a horrifying mood. And the last few minutes, the sound changes into a different guitar riff and the tempo changes with some amazing guitar playing from Tony Iommi and the brilliant solo, lyrically based on Gazer's experience of reading a book that's written in the Latin language and has pictures of Satan. And then he put the book down, went to bed. But when he woke up, he had witnessed a figure in black staring at him. And he just got out of bed, the book disappeared. And that's when the first opening lines of the song came about. What is this that stands before me? Figure in black which points at me. Talk about quite a terrifying experience that Gazer had. Another one of my favourite songs on here is the second track, The Wizard. And it begins with the sound of the harmonica playing. And this is like a bit of like a bluesy inspired sound, and I think when Black Sabbath attempts to do like a bit of a blues inspired sound, I think they really nailed it on this one. The Wizard has a very good hook and once again some brilliant vocals. One of my big favourites, and I mean a big favourite song of mine from Sabbath, is NIB, and this was one of the first songs that we ever hear on the sound of a wah-wah done on a bass guitar. And it was an improvised solo at the beginning from Geezer's bass playing, and then the main riff kicks in, and it is such an iconic, classic riff, lyrically based about the devil falling in love, and Lucifer was mentioned in the lyrics, and it's definitely one of the greatest Sabbath songs of all time. You cannot really deny the fact that this has a lot of punch, from the guitar riff to the fantastic solos once again. And this is definitely one of the songs that always stands out to me as one of Black Sabbath's strongest songs. And this album really pulls things off on high notes because it is moody in places, it's dark, and it has a lot of memorable pieces. Sleeping Village is another excellent song. Starts very slow with acoustic guitar sounds and quiet vocals, but then the mood changes to the electrifying sound of the band. And I think Sleeping Village is quite underrated. Not many Sabbath fans would really talk about this one, but I think Sleeping Village is an excellent song. In terms of my least favourite, I think it would have to be the Evil Woman cover. Not that it's bad. I do love this cover, and it does have a very good pace, but as like a follow-up to the first half of the album, it doesn't really, highly connect along with the first side of the album. But that's just me. And the long track on here, Warning, is a 10-minute epic. Another slow pace at first kind of direction, and then the sound changes with some improvised playing, with just Tony's guitar playing by himself, and he improvises so well. And he's still, to me, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, and he's a big influence on my guitar playing nonetheless. And Black Sabbath's first album is definitely the one that I would recommend for anyone who wants to get into this band. Of course, some people would recommend Paranoid, to another one that would be Master of Reality or Sabotage. I cannot really forget this fantastic debut album from Sabbath. That's really all I have to say about this album. It is one of my big favourites, as I said earlier, and it definitely deserves to have the great amount of attention and influence that it still has to this very day for future bands and musicians. So, I'm going to give Black Sabbath's self-titled debut album a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching, and I will keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.